Hey everyone, I'm Ruth. Welcome back to another video. In this tutorial I'll be showing you how I draw a rose with watercolor pencils on Pastelmat paper. I'll be showing you all my tips and tricks and techniques, so let's get right into the tutorial. I start by taping my paper to the surface, and I have already drawn a light pencil sketch, and then I go in with my Caran Supracolor soft watercolor pencils and I start drawing very lightly with my pink, peach, white and cream pencils. And when I have drawn in several layers, I go over it with my black velvet silver brush with a little bit of water on it, and I blend the colors together. And for this rose I am drawing on Pastelmat paper, light grey color. And the first thing I notice is that I have to use a lot more water on my brush than I am used to using on watercolor paper. I always say that you have to use little water on your brush when drawing with watercolor pencils, because if you use a lot of water, you will pick up the pigment from your paper. But on this Pastelmat paper, I noticed that it's not the case. You have to use a lot more water to create the same effect. And you are not picking up the pigment of your paper when you are using more water. Pastelmat paper, maybe I have to explain what kind of paper it is. The word already says it, it's pastel paper, but it works really well with colored pencils, with pastels of course, and I wanted to try watercolor pencils as well, because I heard some people saying that it works really well with watercolor pencils, so I thought let's give it a try myself. And on this paper you can use many layers of colored pencil, then blend it out with the water as you see me doing here, and it blends really nicely. It's really soft, gives a really soft effect, and I'm really enjoying drawing on this paper with my watercolor pencils. And remember that after you use the water on your pencils to blend the colors together, wait until the paper has completely dried, because if you don't wait until the paper has dried, then you have the risk of damaging the paper, and you don't want to do that because then your drawing will be ruined. So really wait until the paper has completely dried before going over it again with your next layer. So as you can see, you can draw with light over dark on this Pastelmat paper, which is really hard on normal paper, but it's really nice that you can do this here because you don't have to leave the highlights white. You can just use your white pencil over the darker colors to create the highlights. And as you can see, I have put a sheet of paper underneath my hand to prevent the drawing from smudging, because that tends to happen when you don't put a sheet of paper underneath your hand. And this paper I am using here is the sheets that are in between the Pastelmat sheets on the Pastelmat blocks, and it works really well. I am drawing with a very light hand. I'm not putting much pressure on my pencils, and as you can see, even drawing with a light hand gives really vibrant colors on this Pastelmat paper, and I'm really not pushing hard on the pencils. I'm just adding water after a couple of light layers, And then, if necessary, I go over it again when the paper has dried. You can use many layers on this Pastelmat paper without damaging the tooth. And when you have gone over it with your water, it becomes possible to draw even more layers on top. So I repeat the process over and over again on each petal of this rose. I draw various layers on top of each other with a very light hand, with many colors, pinks, peach, white, cream colors, even some oranges. Then I go over it with my brush with water on it. And then I let the paper dry completely. And then I go over it with my pencils again and repeat the process until I'm happy with how the petals are looking. And I use my kneaded eraser to erase some of the graphite from the initial sketch before going in with my watercolor pencils, because I don't want the graphite to show through my drawing in the end. And as you can see, the outer petals are lighter than the center of the rose. I wanted the focus to be on the center of the rose, so I kept the outer petals light. And then as I come closer to the center of the rose, I use a little more pressure and more layers as well to create the shadows and the darker colors. And I noticed later on that there had to be more shadow in the center of the rose, so I used an even darker orangey color to create that shadow. And as I said before, on this paper you can use many layers, so that worked really well. I could add an even darker color without damaging the tooth of the paper. Adding more shadow here, as you can see, with the darker color to create that realistic look. And blending everything some more with my brush with water on it to create that soft effect, which works really well. And then drawing in the outer petals with a very light hand again to create that soft look. And as you can see, when I go over it with my water, that creates really vibrant colors. You don't have to use a lot of pencil. By adding the water, the colors really pop. And I want to repeat once more, when drawing with these watercolor pencils, it's really important to use many layers to create this realistic effect. If you push too hard on your pencils too soon, you will saturate your paper, damage the tooth of your paper, and you won't be able to draw any more layers on top. And you might even ruin your drawing by doing this. So remember to draw with a very light hand and add as many layers as possible to create this realistic looking effect. And when I'm happy with how my rose is looking, I'm ready to take off the tape. Thank you very much for watching my video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell to get informed when a new video comes out. You can leave a comment down below and don't forget to share my video with all your friends. Thank you. Bye.